my mother is like, Glenn, you have all these things from your childhood. You need to come up here and grab some of these things and take them to your home. But what I didn't realize was some of the stuff that I thought maybe was kind of garbage ended up being worth quite a bit of money.
Welcome to the SGV Master Key, a show where you will hear personal stories of triumph over failures and how others successfully navigated the unique landscape that is the San Gabriel Valley. What makes us different? Well, just like you, we have chosen the San Gabriel Valley for our home or businesses or both. We believe it is the people and small businesses that make this community great, and we love to share their stories with you. We always encourage your questions and feedback, and you can find all of our contact information at sgvmasterkey.com. Here are the hosts for the show, Russell Mono and Scott Warman.
All right, welcome back to another episode. Wow, it's been such a long time that I've been here in the studio and recording a show. Literally, almost 4 months? No, a little over 3 months, huh?
Yeah, more than 3 months, 3.5 months, right?
Yeah. If you're a regular listener to the show, you heard me calling in the last few episodes, but now I'm back in the studio. I'm excited to be here. It feels good to be here, and I'm smiling because this is a guest that always has tremendous stories to bring with him.
Yeah, so we're comfortable with our guest. It's his third visit. We've never had anyone on 3 times, so that in itself is a testament to the interest that he brings. That he, really excites people with what he has to say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If I could describe you in one word, Glenn, it'd be a storyteller. So, Glenn Evans, welcome back to the show for your 3rd time.
Hey, thanks very much. This is great to be.
Yeah,
beautiful
welcome.
Studio you have.
Yeah, so you haven't been to our new studio. Here we are.
Wonderful. I love the decor.
So, it's more meaningful coming from you because you deal with all this all the time, right?
I get to see a lot of things, and I love the old things. So I'm happy of this choice of beautiful rug. I see you have some ceramics there. Really nice. This looks beautiful.
Awesome. So for those who have not listened to your previous 2 episodes, you are a action videographer?
You could say that, yeah for sure. Yeah, I've traveled to 68 countries filming all kinds of TV shows for History Channel, National Geographic, Discovery. I do a lot of ancient architecture, endangered animals, and searching for treasure.
It's just exciting. I've said it before when you were on, it's the kind of life when I was in high school, everybody wanted to be a National Geographic photographer. It was like that would be the greatest thing you could do in your life is travel the world, taking pictures on all these exciting, journeys. And you've done it,
Well, that was my dream too. I mean, I was really inspired in the 80s by Indiana Jones, I grew up in that genre.
Oh, yeah.
So it was really much, I kind of gravitated towards the camera because I maybe wasn't so scholarly to become an archaeologist or a master historian or something, but my father bought a VHS camera in the 80s when they came out, and I immediately just started making movies, And it turned out my high school, luckily up in Oregon where I'm from, had their own editing system. You could shoot on VHS and then create a movie, linear editing onto 3/4-inch videotape, which was, a higher quality. And so that's what we do. And it was actually a class in school in the middle of this crazy farm town, Mm-hmm. And my father was in the toy industry. He was vice president of Viewmaster, the 3D toys.
Yeah, right.
And so he was like, yes, we lived in Portland, Oregon, but he was kind of connected a little bit down in Hollywood and in the toy business. And so he really inspired me to kind of try to become involved in the entertainment industry through the camera as a director, trying to create my own shows. But I gravitated towards the camera. I went to University of Oregon and then ended up going to Brooks Institute of Photography in California doing underwater cinematography, which then led to travel and filming animals and this and that. And then it wasn't far from me coming out of the water above ground, almost like the Darwin theory of camera work, you know. And I just started filming whatever I could with the camera in my hand, and usually it involved a lot of travel and a lot of adventure. And so it's just been basically traveling around the world, filming endangered animals, people searching for treasure, and then of course pyramids, the Great Wall, the Mayan ruins in Guatemala and Mexico, and on from there.
You know, Indiana Jones is just a perfect, it's a spot on comparison. You know, I never thought of that, but yeah, what you do and sort of the things you have brought as special items in the past, you know, they kind of key into this Indiana Jones type of life.
If you guys ever get to see my living room, it's very much decked out and very strange things from around the world.
Well, for the listener, if you want to check out those first two episodes, it's episode 27 and episode 30, where we go a lot into your history. You're back here on the show, and we really want to know what adventures you've been on since we last spoke to you.
Well, it's been tough with the pandemic, as you know, not a lot of international travel so much. My time, I've been working around town in LA, but also I'm happy to say we managed to get a wildlife show called Wildlife Nation. It's on ABC on the weekends. It's in the mornings, but it basically travels around the United States. We were up in Alaska, Montana, Florida, places like this, filming endangered animals and the people trying to protect them, you know? So that's basically what I've been doing this whole last year, is just traveling, filming anything from black bears to green sea turtles to grizzly bears up in Kodiak, you know.
And that's called
eagles.
Wildlife Nation.
Wildlife Nation on ABC, hosted by Jeff Corwin, the animal expert.
And you've
host.
worked with him in the past.
I started working with him in 2001, so it's been 20 years working with Jeff Corwin, filming all of his crazy snakes and polar bears and lions, and we've been all over the world together filming all kinds of incredible animals.
So what in Florida, what were you doing?
Well, in Florida, it was a lot about, and this is interesting, you don't think of Florida having crocodiles. When you think of Florida, you think of Florida having alligators, but there is a Florida saltwater crocodile. It's very, very rare and very, very protected, and there aren't very many of them around, but they are there. So we were filming the scientists protecting the saltwater crocodile down there. We also were heavily involved in a green sea turtle protection program, because they're not endangered, but you know, their numbers are declining. And we got to film with a great center that treats these sea turtles for all kinds of diseases that they get from possibly a warming up ocean, possibly some kind of pollution, evolution, these kinds of things, to protect the green sea turtle. And also my favorite, and you're not going to believe this, but we filmed a fantastic snake. And I know a lot of people don't like snakes, but this snake is amazing. It's called the Indigo Snake. And if you look at it at first, it looks very dark, black, and scary, which is why, unfortunately, people that don't know enough about it tend to try to kill this snake. But this snake eats other venomous snakes and is non-venomous in itself. And believe it or not, the snake is so, loaded with confidence that when you do pick up this snake, it's very rare that it would even try to bite you. And I've picked up and held many indigo snakes, and they are amazing animals. Beautiful.
What is their habitat?
Marshland, mostly, all Floridian, kind of near swamp and things like this. But these are the friends that we have that eat rattlesnakes and take care of things that maybe you would normally really should be cautious of. But the indigo snake, by far and wide, is probably my favorite snake. I had a great time with it.
So there's overlap of like your seeking adventure, and then also you're really, it seems like you're really passionate about protecting the animals.
I love animals. I think animals, you know what I love about animals? I mean, I work with a lot of people too, but animals are always themselves. They have no hidden agenda, you know? They're going to be, if they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. You know, animals are not phony, you know? They want what they want and they like what they like. And there's something refreshing about that. I mean, and they're also kind of a good judge of character at times, you know, but there really is an animal for everybody. So I think people really should love animals. I mean, we love our cats and dogs, but these animals really are not any different. You know, when it comes to wolves, when it comes to bears, when it comes to reptiles, you know, there's different demeanors around people. But I think animals are very, very important to protect, and we need to keep them around so everybody can enjoy these amazing creatures that live on this planet, same as we do, you know?
Do you have animals at home?
I do. I have a big white dog. His name is Ziggy. He's a half German Shepherd, half Husky, and he was rescued. We adopted him. He has one eye that's blue and one eye that's brown. He's amazing. He's going to be 4 this year. And it's funny because, not funny that he was an animal running around on the streets. I guess he was found in Ventura, California. But someone reported him running around, and how they got him was they put a In-N-Out cheeseburger in a cage, and that's what he fell for. I'm like, I would have been trapped there too.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, make room because I'm coming in too.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you have not seen him and his dog on Mount Wilson Trail, right? Because you guys go there quite often. I follow Glenn on Instagram, so I'm always seeing his adventures unfolding on the phone.
And I probably would see and recognize you. I guess you'd recognize me probably too, right?
Absolutely. We hike up there all the time, but not on a regular schedule because we live pretty close to the Mount Wilson Trail where it starts in Sierra Madre. I live in East Pasadena, but it really is just a matter of about 2 miles from the trailhead, and we'll just go on a whim. We'll just hike to First Water, or we'll hike all the way to Orchard Camp. Mm-hmm. We've gone all the way to the top of Mount Wilson before, but generally we don't have enough time to do that.
Well, you went from Sierra Madre up to Mount Wilson, that trail?
That's it.
Oh, that's
well, we
really
started
steep.
at Chantry Flats the time that we actually did it.
Oh, okay, that's less steep.
Yeah, less steep to get up that way.
Yeah.
That's how but we've gone as far as Orchard Camp, and we know that that's halfway to the top.
Yeah, and I think from Orchard going up, it's really challenging.
It starts to get crazy.
Most people don't go to Wilson from that way.
That route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. I see a lot of people coming down.
Yes.
Like maybe they'll go to the top and just take the afternoon to hike down, which nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful to do that. And there are uphills on the way, but also, you know, you think downhill really is easy. And it's not, actually. Did you know that most accidents when coming down big mountains happen on the way down? You know?
Oh, yeah.
Even climbing Everest or K2 or any of these kinds of things, the big accidents happen usually when the climber is coming down. But, I mean, obviously Mount Wilson is not at that caliber. It's an enjoyable hike and it's wonderful. But I would love to just have somebody drop me off on the top of Mount Wilson and just walk the 8.5 miles down into Sierra Madre. That'd be a really wonderful activity. I bet you it probably takes about 4 or 5 hours, but you're going to get that quad workout, you know, your legs are going to burn a little.
I actually did that exact thing. I dropped my car at the top.
Yeah.
And I came down, and Scott actually picked me up. Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely. I do.
And the next day, a group of my friends were hiking up, so I just wanted them to do the trail up.
Yeah.
So we went from Chantry.
So there is a place that you can get dropped off on Mount Wilson at the peak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right there where all the telescopes are and all of those wonderful old telescopes that you can go check out too on the top of Mount Wilson. It's pretty incredible. They have the Bridge of the Gods where even Albert Einstein had walked to go look through the telescope at space and everything else.
Oh yeah.
Really incredible up there.
Last time you were here, you spoke of like sunken treasure and you know, saving Louisiana and possibly the United States and this amber room, right?
Yes.
And I'm excited to hear what other stories you have and the interesting stuff that you brought.
Well, I did bring a couple items. Now, a lot of these are not from, you know, let's say Russia or from a sunken galleon, you know. But I thought it'd be interesting because I haven't been traveling internationally recently. I've been all over the United States, but the international travel has gone down a little. I actually had time to go home to my family home in Oregon, and my mother is like, you know, she's 76. She's like, Glenn, you have all these things from your childhood. You need to come up here and grab some of these things and take them to your home in California. And I'm like, well, okay, Mom, you know. So we went up there. My father, he had a very large collection of firearms that he willed to me when he passed away. So I took those and locked them all up in a safe, you know, but a lot of those are from like the early 1900s, late 1800s. They're pretty valuable. But what I didn't realize was some of the stuff that I thought maybe was kind of garbage ended up being worth possibly quite a bit of money. So I want to encourage people to take those things in your attics and the stuff that you maybe have left and go through those things, because you could have some really rare finds. Like one of the finds that I had that I brought today, my father, he was in the toy business. He would go to Toy Fair in New York every year for about 24 years. And he would meet all the people that manufactured all the toys, from Cabbage Patch Kids to Teddy Ruxpin to all these old things. And of course, comic books, they're huge. Everyone knows that comic books are collectible. Same with baseball cards, same with this, same with that. But my father would go and he would bring a stack of comic books home every single time he'd go, and he would just give them to me. And I would read them once maybe, and I'd just throw them in a box. So I started getting a collection going without even really being a collector, because it would just come from, you know, a stack wrapped in rubber bands and this and that. And of course I loved it. But as I later got into junior high, like in the 80s, I actually really enjoyed collecting comics, especially Spider-Man. And of course, Spider-Man, and everyone knows that, you know, oh, wow, a comic book, you know, can be really sought after and this or that, but I really didn't even think about it. So I got home and I had this big Rubbermaid container. It said Uncle Glenn's Comics on the top, because my nephew had written it in Sharpie, you know, and then lo and behold, I opened it up and I was like, wow, look at all these. And a lot of them were banged up and bent, because I actually read the comics, you know, I didn't, you know, but then I had a couple that I remember I bought in 1984, 85, and they came in a plastic sheath, and I think I paid like $7 or $8 for them when they came out. And it was this collection that struck my attention called Secret Wars, and it was like this Marvel conflict between other Marvel comic book characters. And so I said, well, I had some time one afternoon, why don't I look and see what these comics are worth? So I downloaded an app called Comics Guide, Comic Book Guide, and it would tell me what they were worth, and I would take a picture of the cover. And some of them were worth $20, some of them were worth $7, some of them were worth nothing. But as I snapped a picture of this one, it told me on the guide that in mint condition, this would be worth $18,000.
Whoa. Wow.
If it's in mint condition.
Now that's maybe pretty close to mint condition.
So I've never taken it out of the plastic. So what I have to do now is send it in to get it graded.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's the whole thing. So ungraded, it's crazy the amount of money it could be worth. It's ungraded, it's worth close to $1,000. But if I get it graded, which means you send it into a place in Alabama, the CDC, I can't remember, it's the comic book grading, the CDG or something like that. They will grade this comic, and if it is in mint condition, it could be worth up to $18,000.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
That's what I said too, because I've never taken this out.
Wow.
And I had this just sitting in the box, and I was like, I can't believe this. And it's not that I don't enjoy this, but, you know, and I don't know if I would sell it or not. I'm not really that emotionally connected to it, but
is that Spider-Man, or is it?
So what this is
different?
This is Spider-Man, and this happens to be the very first edition where Spider-Man gets introduced to the black suit, which later becomes Venom.
Oh, wow.
So the reason that happened in this book, this comic out of the Secret Wars series, because if you look for the other ones, this is number 8. I think it's a 10 or 12 number series. I'm not an expert on comics by any means, as you can tell, but the fact that the comics guide said that this was worth up to $18,000.
Yeah.
And it's been sitting in my attic in a box.
It's a beautiful specimen.
Yeah, I lucked out.
Yeah.
I'm happy
Where'd you buy
moved
it?
on to girls or something. didn't bend the corners on this one.
Where did you buy it?
I bought it at a comic book shop, I remember, in Hillsboro, Oregon. And it was already like in a plastic sheet. And it was, I for sure did not pay more than $20 for it.
Which even then, that was a lot of money.
That was a lot of money. And for a kid, I think I was 13 when I bought it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like, something that you don't even realize that you have until you go home and finally you realize that you have something. And all these kinds of things that are collectible can suddenly become very valuable even after just a couple decades,
You can't send that by mail.
Okay, now this is what I found. So I want to get this graded. I'm going to get this graded. And, but because of the pandemic, this is what I've learned, because I know nothing about comic book grading. I really don't. I'm an amateur. But what I hear is you send it in to Alabama, I believe. It's the comic book grading organization, and they grade the comic. And if it turns out that it's a 10 mint condition, then it would be worth that. But you will see the curve drop off. Like if it's a 9.8, I think this thing is only worth like $1,200 or something like that. It really drops fast. So, I mean, the idea that it could be in mint condition is probably extremely rare, but I mean, it looks pretty good to this amateur set of eyeballs, and it's been sitting in a box out of the sun, so I might as well just send it in,
But would you send it via email or mail, or would you fly with it there?
So here's what I would do. There are comic book shops in this area. I went to a great place, which was going to be one of my Master 3 suggestions, but I'll name it at the end. But they offer the service of grading. So what they do is they will look at the comic, photograph it, take a record of it, give you a tracking, everything to say that you're getting the comic book graded. But what they had told me was that it takes up to a year right now.
Whoa.
Because it's so backed up. And then what I learned was, and I think this is true, if you go to Comic-Con, you can get your comic books graded there. There's a panel of people that will grade them there. It takes about a day for them to grade or something. But that's why Comic-Con also is just jam-packed and you can't get in because, of course, people want to go see these heroes and this and that. But also, I think people go there to get their stuff graded, and that is partially why it's so packed.
Is that just a trip to San Diego?
Yeah.
Okay.
That happens once a year, and you got to, I don't know. I think you really got to know somebody or get in early to even go.
And do you have to dress as Spider-Man?
You might. Maybe that helps. I don't know. I've never been to Comic-Con before, so
Yeah.
it's all new to me.
So this is more like a treat for us and hopefully for our listeners too, because we get to live vicariously through you and your adventures. And you brought some other stuff here with you.
I did. I mean, I use the comic book as a treasure. I love treasure. I love collecting things. I'm a collector of rare things. Treasure to me is fantastic because I love all forms of art. I love old art, modern art. I love the idea of this may have been in the hands of somebody 200 years ago or more, and now it's in your living room, and it creates kind of a magic, But speaking of collecting things too, so you guys know that Banksy has an exhibit in LA right now, right? The artist Banksy is a modern art, started out doing
Street art.
graffiti street art, and is just blown up to be this massive, massive artist, highly collectible. And it's pretty amazing to me that nobody knows who Banksy is. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you know that.
I know.
His identity is completely.
As far as he's hidden.
He's hidden. I mean, I even, and I guess according to certain articles, you might watch a series on television about art, and then there will be some random person in the background, and you can't see their face, and then it says, "Oh, that was Banksy. He just appeared."
Yeah, I saw a movie about him, I think, or some kind of feature maybe on Netflix.
Yeah.
Doesn't he live in London?
He does. He's a British artist.
Yeah, right.
Exit Through the Gift Shop, and
Yeah.
that's the name of the film that is most popular.
Oh yeah,
for.
I saw that. Yeah.
And but he has an unauthorized exhibit here in LA in Culver City right now, and you can go see Banksy's artwork. You can go check out a collection, I think, of 80 pieces done by Banksy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a mysterious person, isn't he?
And
I saw that exit through the
gift shop.
The gift shop, yes, that was it.
That was where he created an artist, basically.
And he never appeared on screen, as I remember. Maybe he did.
And now this brings the question: even if you see him on screen, is that really him?
Yeah.
That's the mystique that he's created. You know,
Yeah.
He's usually in a dark hoodie and you can't see his face,
right.
And they disguise his voice.
Yes, they disguised his voice, right?
Like I've even heard that Bill Murray might be Banksy.
Oh, really?
That's what I've heard.
He's also a real mysterious one, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, so because that exhibit is in town in LA, you can go see it. I don't know when it ends, but it is in town in Culver City. You can go check out Banksy. So he does all kinds of very crazy things, Banksy does. And I like that Banksy is a modern day treasure creator, you know? He will make a piece of art and it will be worth thousands of dollars as soon as he's done making it. And there's that crazy story about when he had the piece at auction and they bought the piece for a crazy amount of money and then suddenly it starts to shred.
That's right. It destructed it.
I mean, it's
self-destructed. Yeah.
It's like right out of a comic book.
Oh, isn't there another story where like he sold a piece on the street for like $12 or something?
Yes.
Right? And then it ended up being worth a lot more.
Yeah, he ended up like posing as a street vendor or himself and he sold it. And yeah, I mean, he really tries to be, I think, the Robin Hood of modern art where because like I know they're charging like $20 to go see his exhibit in LA. He's upset about that because he says he would never, he said, quote, "I would never charge anyone to see my art unless there was a Ferris wheel involved or some quote like this." And, you know, he really started out on the street and just thinks it's crazy how the art world is so nuts about anything and can really hike up the price of something that's just simple, you know. But then again, Banksy's artwork is seemingly simple, but it usually has a lot of meaning behind it. But what I brought today was during his presentation in London called Dismaland, he called it. The first number of folks back then, I think the first 500 people that entered Dismaland, they would pay the fee to get into the exhibit, and they were given change in a £10 note that he actually created. And so this money is not real British money. This is money that he actually created to give to people that entered the festival, and the first 500 were autographed with his signature. So I have 2 of them.
Autographed.
Yeah, as you can see, there is Banksy's signature. And the funny thing about this is when you look at these, they're the same front to back. So I bought 2, one autographed on the front and one autographed on the back. And you can see Princess Diana on the front of this here. And yeah, and he always sort of, and I guess it's crazy. Even though Banksy handed these out at his own exhibit, he can't cop to the fact that he made these because then he would be accused of counterfeiting. So he slid through the cracks. He turned sideways on that one and got around it by not admitting that he made these, but he did make them. And he signed these ones.
They could be authenticated.
They could be. I bought them at an auction. And I actually have on the back, there's a description of what they are that was sent by the auction house to me. And I've seen these now for sale for anywhere from, you know, $100 to $2,000. But again,
the whole set.
No, each one.
Oh.
But again, I didn't pay that price for these. And as time goes by, they may be worth more, they may be worth less, but I bought them just because I really love Banksy and what he creates, and I'm a collector, so I have these now just in my kitchen.
Wow, yeah.
Well, if you're only a listener to the show on the podcast, this is probably an episode you want to go to the YouTube channel and check this out so you can see these pieces. What's the story with the other 2 images?
Well, so I guess if you went to the same Dismaland, you would get a copy of postcards of Banksy's art that he'd make. And, a lot of them are political satire. A lot of them are just basically jokes. So you can see on the top, it's like The Price is Right, but it says, Banksy, why don't you answer my emails, Or on the bottom is a very proper British soldier posted outside a royal house, but you can tell he's puts his M16 down and he's on his break, relieving himself on the wall. These are the kinds of things that Banksy likes to create and show the both sides of these things. So this just came with the bills that I had purchased that were autographed. So I managed to just place them together in kind of a collage.
And those are postcards, but those are photographs of art that he's done like on public walls.
Yes, exactly right. And it's funny because if you watch Exit from the Gift Shop, you'll see that these particular artists like Space Invader or Obey, they work at night. And they'll have people film them doing these things, but then of course it's not legal to just deface public property. But part of what makes these art pieces so valuable is that, these people did break the law and they are seen as being bad, and a lot of them have a message to give, but it's on public property, and these pieces tend to be worth at auction when they come up and become popular and the art world gets a hold of them. They can go for no money and then suddenly be worth thousands of dollars. So it's pretty fascinating.
I just yesterday saw a reel, like an Instagram reel, where this person was saying that he thinks that art is just a way for the super wealthy to shuffle money around.
I can agree with that. I can see that. I mean, the art world really is crazy. You can, I don't know, take a Sharpie and draw something somewhere, and if some wealthy person decides that it's worth a lot of money and pays a lot of money, well, then it suddenly becomes worth a lot of money, Again, the art world, nobody quite really understands it. It's a fascinating thing. It's very corrupt and blown out of proportion,
What's that movie? Mickey Blue Eyes. Have you ever seen Mickey Blue Eyes?
No, I haven't seen Mickey
You've never
Blue
seen
Eyes.
Mickey? Have you
No.
ever seen Mickey Blue Eyes? It's like it's a comedy, and it's like an Italian, family, and one of the sons is like just a terrible artist. He's painting these things, and he's getting the other people to bid on his art, and I forget the story, but like the art is atrocious, but they're like strong arming this person to bid on it, and he's thinking he's like this wonderful artist.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's quite a few things in the art world like that happen. Have you heard of the Salvador Mundi painting? The supposedly last Leonardo da Vinci painting that was in the private sector. It was hanging in a house in New Orleans. On a stairwell. There's a movie, I think it's called Savior for Sale. It's a very great documentary. You can look at it, and it talks about how this painting was hidden for obviously hundreds of years, and then was on a stairwell in New Orleans, and then basically restored. And I guess how they tried to authenticate that the fact that the Salvador Mundi was real was when they started restoring the painting, they found 2 thumbs on the painting. Like they made a thumb and then decided that was a mistake, and then made the actual thumb that's on the painting. This is the supposed painting of what appears to be Jesus Christ holding an orb in his hand. And some people believe that it's the counterpart to the Mona Lisa. Like You have the Mona Lisa, the female, the Salvador Mundi, the male. Anyway, it gets all blown out of proportion. It goes into Russian hands. The person that sold it to the Russians sold it for twice what he had paid, millions of dollars. And then suddenly the Arab nation in Dubai trying to create their own, like Louvre in Paris, but only in Dubai, managed to purchase the painting for the highest amount ever that anyone's ever bought a painting for. And the truth of the matter is that this painting might not even be an actual Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, wow.
Because the Louvre would not authenticate it. Now, it may be Leonardo da Vinci and company, meaning that Leonardo had a number of
huh?
artists that would work with him that would paint things and do things. That could absolutely be the case. But is it a 100% Leonardo da Vinci? The Louvre says no. And because the Arab state in Dubai building their museum collection, they're basically suing everybody involved for not authenticating and saying that it's not a Leonardo da Vinci, because they wanted England to hang it in their Leonardo da Vinci exhibit next to the Mona Lisa when it was moving to England, or I think in the Louvre in France, which I know where the Mona Lisa is. I've seen it there. But they had an exhibit and they wanted the Salvador Mundi and the Mona Lisa together, and the museum would not do it because they would not authenticate that it is an actual Leonardo. So it's a whole ongoing thing.
Wow.
Dubai is actually buying a lot of these art masterpieces for lots of money to try to get them into their museum. And so pieces are disappearing. I don't know if you want to hear another crazy art story.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
So listen to this crazy story. There was a man who is basically in the article unnamed. He's from Toulouse, France. His job is he buys houses and flips houses. He buys this house sight unseen in Toulouse, France. I think this was in 2018. He goes into the attic of this old stone house that he purchased. And in the attic, all these cobwebs, all of these crazy, it's just like what you'd imagine, a spooky attic. And in the attic, as he approaches this corner, he finds this horrific painting of a person getting their head chopped off with a giant knife. And it's very bloody and gruesome. I'm sure he was probably scared and ran out of the house, or maybe got out of that room at least. But as he took the painting and went to Paris, France to have somebody look at it, it turns out it was the lost Caravaggio painting from the Baroque period, and it's worth millions and millions of dollars. This painting went missing and now ended up in the attic of this person's house. And Caravaggio is one of the most sought after painters in art history. His paintings are in the top 10, almost next to Leonardo da Vinci.
Really?
If you're going to go to auction with a painting like this.
So the story is that there was a painting, it did disappear.
Well, this is what I want to tell you. So they were set to auction this painting in France for $160 million.
Whoa.
This Caravaggio painting. It was authenticated, and the Louvre had the painting for 3 weeks to authenticate it. And I think for a number of months, France was like, once they knew the auction was happening, they were like, this painting cannot leave the country for a number of months. It's actually the beheading. So what this is the beheading of Holofernes from the Book of Judith. And Holofernes was a Roman general who was led back to his tent by Judith, who then beheaded him. And Caravaggio was an interesting artist. He was very dark. He used to get into a lot of street brawls. Some people say he was killed by somebody who did not like him, that he was poisoned. He was quite an interesting artist. And I want to say, I'm going to get these dates wrong. He's right on the cusp between the 15th and 16th century is when he basically was painting. And this painting was up for auction for $160 million, starting bid. And then 2 days before the auction, someone came and made an offer that they couldn't refuse. They sold the painting, and now it has disappeared and missing once again.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
They have no idea who. Well, they do know, but they won't say. And they say the painting will be visible in a public venue soon, but they don't know when.
Wow.
My feeling is I think that Dubai may have
You think
purchased
so?
it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the painting was missing.
Yeah.
Now it was found, and it's such a scary painting, suddenly now missing again. I mean, can't you just picture like a black car,
Yeah.
somebody in a mysterious black suit,
Yeah.
putting down an ungodly amount of money they couldn't refuse, and now it's gone again? I don't know. That's like Kaiser Soze stuff, if you ask me.
Wow. Okay. What's next?
Well, I can't leave you guys without bringing something from a crazy place that has a story to tell, on my journeys. And my wife, I married a woman from Brazil, from a region close to Sao Paulo, Brazil. We travel to Brazil every year. Most people don't know a ton about Brazil except when it comes to like soccer, or Rio de Janeiro and Carnival, or their music, samba, which is beautiful.
Unfortunately, most of what I see about Brazil is like robbery on motorcycle.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
That's quite a thing, right?
It can happen. I have seen a woman lose her purse to somebody on a bicycle when she was walking on the beach.
Do you feel safe when you're there?
Well, I don't have there's things you can do to be safe. Don't carry a big wallet around, and maybe have cash instead of a credit card. But what I've just mostly seen is small theft sometimes that happens. Kids will come up and smack your phone out of your hand when you're trying to take a picture, and run. But it's interesting, so I'll get into this one. So I was actually making a show about people buying classic cars for cash money in dangerous neighborhoods in Central and South America. And we had to take a class with the Mexico City police about how to not get kidnapped and what to do if you were basically apprehended and the kinds of things that they do. What they told me is the most popular thing is that if you have a credit card on you or a bank card, they'll take you, they'll capture you, and they will hold you and maybe hurt you, rough you up to get the code to your bank. And then what they'll do is they'll keep you in a location until the money runs out, and they'll go use your bank card every single day and take the maximum amount out. When that dries up, they'll put a bag over your head and throw you back on the street. That happens a lot.
Alive.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah, alive. And it was interesting because on the TV show that we were making, it was called Chrome Underground, believe it or not. So we were buying classic cars for cash money in dangerous neighborhoods in Mexico City, in Brazil, Sao Paulo, as well as Argentina, believe it or not. They have a lot of Bugattis in Argentina. So when we were in Mexico City, we had a really famous car collector named Antonio Brunet. Very great guy, good friend of mine. He's Mexican. And when we were sitting in the room together, the police officer and the undercover cop that were giving us the class, he said, "So who do you think is in most danger here in Mexico City of being kidnapped?" And we looked around, and we also had a British person. And he goes, "I'll tell you who it is. It's him." And he pointed to Antonio. He goes, "Listen, Antonio is Mexican. If he gets kidnapped in his own country, it's not an international incident."
Oh, yeah.
You see, if you as an American get kidnapped in any foreign country, it becomes an international incident. And then all kinds of police, FBI, CIA.
Publicity and all
right,
that. Yeah.
It gets messy. So a lot of these people know this. So they pretty much will go, in Brazil anyway, would probably be more apt to go after a Brazilian, since you brought up kidnapping or crime or this or that, than a foreigner,
Right.
with the exception of small crimes, like taking your phone or something. But if you really were worried about getting in a position where you were going to be like kidnapped, it probably would not happen to you as a foreigner. It would happen to a wealthy person that lives in that country already.
I see.
That's what we learned anyway, they said.
But, that's fascinating. You were in these neighborhoods in Mexico City or which city?
Mexico City, Sao Paulo, Brazil,
Yeah.
Buenos Aires, Argentina.
And so how did you feel? I mean, yeah, it's one thing to say you're not the prime target, but still it must be uncomfortable, scary.
It can be. We had security with us the whole time. We had undercover cops with us. And I remember one time when we were making the pilot, we were in Mexico City, and we hired an undercover cop to protect us, to just shoot the pilot that was going to sell the show. So we were very, not much money, low budget, but had the permits to be there. But all the cop did was he knew the gang leader of the area where we were filming, gave them some money so
Sure,
nobody would
yeah.
bother us.
Right, yeah.
And it's just business to them. It's not personal. They're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you're here in our town, you pay us this." I mean, Russia's the same way. A lot of these places are the same way. Yes, there's the government, and yes, there's the police, but then there's the people in the dark below that if you're doing something like this, you have to understand that there's that side as well. It's
But
it was
did you see the beauty of Mexico City?
I did.
Yeah, isn't that an amazing city?
It just reminded me of, I love the Gothic architecture.
Yeah.
I love the crazy story of Montezuma's revenge, where there's the cathedral built in the middle of Mexico City, but it's actually, the foundation is cracking because it is built on the ruins of a conquered, I believe, Aztec temple.
Yeah.
Because that's what the conquistadors would do, is they would conquer the Aztecs and use the stone from their monuments to build their cathedrals where that was. I mean, that's commonplace in Europe and other places too. But the fact that they did that, the ground was very uneven, and the old ruined temple is causing the foundation to crack.
And then there's the other place there. I don't remember what it's called offhand, but where I would say they were pilgrims. They would approach on their knees. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I went there. I remember that.
There is the great city. I think it's called Teotihuacan. I'm pronouncing it wrong.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's the Temple of the Moon and the Temple of the Sun, and they found some corridor filled with skeletons leading to this temple underground. They were excavating it while we were there.
Oh, but even now, you go there, they don't walk, they get on their knees.
And kneel all the way.
All the way. I mean, they walk, I don't know if it's a mile or less or more, but they're on their knees they crawl on their knees.
I was born and raised Catholic, I've heard of that type of pilgrimage,
yes,
I guess.
Yeah.
There is another famous church in Brazil, too, where there's a Virgin Mary that was found in the river by the Portuguese, and she was black. And she's known as the Black Mary. That's a real thing.
I've heard of that.
And now they have this huge temple in Minas Gerais, which people kneel to go to see her, to forgive, for penance for their sins, especially during this time now that Lent has just started. Carnival's over, Mardi Gras over. You have Catholic people doing this, which brings me to this part of Minas Gerais, which is a very religious part of Brazil, where the Brazilians were fighting with the Portuguese. And that's where this comes from. This is a very old wooden statue from the 1800s that may have been brought over on a ship, may have been from Bahia, may have been from Portugal, brought overseas to Brazil. But the interesting thing about this is, when the Portuguese basically colonized Brazil, and the Brazilians were fighting for their independence during the 1700s, a lot of it happened in Minas Gerais because that's where the Portuguese were mining for their gold. And so when the Portuguese were wanting gold from the Brazilians, they would take it on ships back to Portugal. But if people didn't want gold to leave for Portugal, they would hide it in the churches in Brazil. And sometimes they would hide it in statues just like this. This is a wooden statue of Lady do Carmo, which is a saint in Brazil. This is the Christ child here on her shoulder. But I purchased this in Minas Gerais, and this is a very, very old wooden statue of a saint that may have possibly held gold hidden inside.
Have you had it x-rayed?
I have not had it x-rays, but I've looked at the bottom of it. There's peculiar holes in there. There is interesting writings on the bottom, this and that. But these are also highly, highly collectible. If you go to these places in Minas Gerais, there's a museum actually that has a number of these statues of different saints and things carved in wood and painted. And they're all considered wooden colonial artwork of the time period. And people really like to collect these kinds of things, whether you're religious or not, because it is an example of an incredible artwork in a wooden carving.
It is.
And it is very rare, and it's very Brazilian. You really only find this kind of thing in Brazil, and it's surrounded by mystery and revolution and people hiding gold with the romanticism of this particular faith in this country. It's a pretty great example of Brazil, a collectible museum artwork.
What kind of paint is on that?
Now, I'm not really sure, actually. It seems to have stood the test of time.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you look too, the colors are pretty amazing, You've got blues, golds, greens, these particular kinds of things have meanings as well. You know, when they would paint these things and they would make these things, a lot of times there would be high meaning and motivation behind any decision that they made.
Sure. You mentioned building on top of an old structure. I want to ask you some questions about that, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
The legal process can be intimidating. You don't know where to start and you're unsure of what to expect. The attorneys and staff at the law offices of Scott Warmoth have been serving the San Gabriel Valley for over 35 years, helping people just like you navigate through the legal process and ensuring you're treated fairly. You can find them at law888.com or call 626-282-6868. That's 626-282-6868.
So we're back. Before the break, I was asking you about building on top of Montezuma's old temple, the one that's cracking. What I'm interested in, because you've traveled around the world, is that all around the world in these ancient structures, it's quite evident that they're built upon older structures. And a lot of these places claim that they know who built it, why it was built. A lot of them, and also in Italy and whatnot. But it's clear that even today, we don't possess the technology to create that kind of structure. Either the immense size of the stones or I think it's called polygonal masonry, where the fitting of these immense stones just fit and you can't even put a paper in there. And to claim that it was made, with technology or people, like, it's just beyond me. Have you seen this around the world in your travels?
I have seen it. The examples that I've really have seen is Machu Picchu.
Okay, yes.
The Peruvian monument there. It was actually, they say that Incan structure was basically a palace for the ruler of the particular Incan people there. It was a place of refuge for the ruler to basically escape there. But then again, built with precisely cut stones. You can't put a piece of paper in between those stones. And what also is fascinating to me is the irrigation, the water system in those buildings.
Yes.
I mean, the other example that I see for the fascination of getting water in places where you couldn't normally get it, or right into your house where you live, is Petra in Jordan, that Roman city built in North Africa where people would buy frankincense and myrrh and things like this there. But again, the amount of water, the smooth stones that were carved to just get water to any residence in that ancient city is amazing. But also, back to your point about the stones being cut so and fitted so tightly, there's no better example either than Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever go to the Great Pyramids or this or that and see these massive stone blocks that build these monuments, I mean, it's all a mystery. It really is.
Yeah, and the polygonal masonry that I'm referring to, it's not even geometric. It just seems sort of haphazard, but still fits together. And what's amazing is that it's that structure that can withstand earthquake. Like if you had built it like, let's say, a brick structure where everything is uniform,
yeah,
then it would just topple over. But the way that they constructed it was to survive, earthquake over millennia, and they have stood the test of time. It's just really fascinating.
It's pretty incredible. Now, I have filmed in Egypt people taking large pieces of limestone, and what they do is they burrow holes inside and take a wooden post and they smack it with a hammer, and lo and behold, this massive chunk of stone will just break exactly cleanly in a precise line. And I mean, obviously these people of old, Egypt being Great Pyramids, 4,000 years old, Machu Picchu not being that old, but nonetheless, master stone workers and craftsmen built these monuments.
Yeah.
And they weren't slaves. They've excavated a site called Deir el-Medina in Egypt, and they've read their diaries and things that they've found. These people were highly paid artisans that built these monuments, in Egypt anyway.
I'd love to have a conversation with you another time on are they the Hittites? I forget the name. They're the original people, the Hebrews in the Nile Delta, who moved into Egypt and then became enslaved. Yeah, because I think you said you were a fan of that kind of history and that of the world.
Goodness, but I am. And there's something else fascinating that happened. Did you hear about the Dagger of King Tut?
You know, I saw something about that recently, but I don't remember.
It's one of the newest things since this new museum in Egypt has basically come around, and they were X-raying and cataloging all of these treasures they have in older museums, including King Tut's treasures being moved to this new facility that they've built. And they had this dagger that they've known that was found in King Tut's tomb during the time Carter excavated it in the early 1900s. They have discovered that the dagger is iron, yes, but not iron made from Earth, iron made from outer space in a giant meteorite. This is true. It's not, sounds very science fiction-y, but this dagger is made not from Earth metal, but from metal from something that came from outer space, because they can tell by the length of the crystallization or something that has to do with the metal of making the dagger. And they also believe that the dagger is not from Egypt. It was given as a gift to King Tutankhamun's grandfather from, they think, Anatolians. Could be Hittites too. They mentioned Mesopotamia and things like this. But anyway, he has a dagger in his collection that comes from a meteorite. Pretty incredible.
Well, this is the very reason we have you on this show, is these incredible stories.
And I might not know all the facts, so check out these stories yourself. But I'm just telling you, the stories are real, at least.
Yeah. Pretty fascinating.
You know, we enjoy all the stories, all the treasures that you brought. Now you have another monumental task ahead of you, is to share even more about what you love about the San Gabriel Valley.
All right, Glenn. So I feel we're getting back to, we've been on these foreign adventures and now we're getting back to the more commonplace here. But actually it's the San Gabriel Valley has its own treasures and values and things of interest and excitement. Now you've given us 6 things in 2 previous shows. Now you've got to come up with 3 more.
Oh, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
You know, but I love treasure. I love traveling, and I love to eat delicious food. But I have 3 things that I'll share with you. The first one is, I would like to say that if you are going through your things in your home, then you want to see what they're worth or this or that. Toys versus Comics in Eagle Rock. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I'm not heard of it.
It's a comic book store, Toys versus Comics, in Eagle Rock on Colorado. They're great and very friendly in there, and they were the ones that could tell me what comics and things were worth and where I could get them graded, and they offered the grading service. So I'm probably going to go through them to get my comic book graded to see what it's worth.
Okay.
And they'll send it in. Also, I emptied out with my treasures that I found in the attic. I had a large collection of DVDs and things like this. Nobody watches those things anymore, so the old record store, Canterbury Records, it's on Lake and I want to say Walnut. Canterbury Records were very generous. Came in with a bunch of DVDs. They took them, they looked at them, and they're probably going to buy them to resell. If you're looking for titles and things you can't normally find, Canterbury Records has been around a very long time.
Oh, they'll buy your old DVDs.
They'll buy your old ones, man. Yeah. Who you never thought, but people collect those too.
Wow. Now I'm feeling really quite old.
Know,
The
right?
DVDs are already collectible?
They are collectible and people buy them still.
Wow.
In fact, I'm still waiting to hear back from them, though, how much mine are worth. But I had some good ones. I had like Stanley Kubrick collection in there. I had a Band of Brothers, which I loved, the HBO series. Really great stuff. But they are very generous and able to take those old things that you deem worthless that are taking up space, and you might be able to, at least make some money.
So they've got the old vinyl records and
CDs too.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
They're here in Pasadena. They're old. Canterbury Records. Great.
So you think that's at like Lake and Walnut, somewhere around there?
Yeah, that's where they are.
Okay. It's funny. I've seen the name, but I don't remember seeing
It's an old sign, too.
Yeah.
It's like an old neon sign.
805 East Colorado Boulevard.
That's it.
Okay, so probably Colorado and Lake.
Oh, was it Colorado? Yeah. I thought it was Walnut, but nope, it is Colorado. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's them.
Okay, awesome.
I'll fix it. Yeah, Canterbury Records on Colorado. Very incredible place. And then, you know what I've been doing too, because I like to go out to dinner, and sometimes, you know, my wife cooks at home a ton. And honestly, she is incredible. She makes Brazilian food. She makes Italian food, pretty much everything amazing. But, you know, when you eat at home, you save money, which is great. But also, I like to spend money when I go out to eat. So I enjoy good restaurants, and I want to be close, you know. So I was looking up Michelin star restaurants, and there are actually 8 Michelin star restaurants in Pasadena. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
There are 8 Michelin star restaurants. A lot of them are dumpling houses.
Now,
and that.
I think I could probably name one of them is
Bistro Na.
Bistro Na.
But
Is
that's-
that one?
That's one.
Yeah.
But also, there's a French restaurant called Parley on Union.
I never heard of that.
I haven't been there myself, but I want to go.
Parlay.
And they've earned a Michelin star.
Wow.
Yeah, you can look them up. Parley. What I did was I got on the Michelin star website and I typed in Pasadena, California to see if there were any.
Wow.
And a list of 8 came up.
Wow. Okay.
So French cuisine, you know, I've been to Paris. I've been all over the southern France. My goodness, their food is so delicious, from seafood to poultry, everything wonderful.
Oh, yeah?
Goes nice with amazing wine, you know, which I enjoy. So I want to try this restaurant called Parley in Union Street in Old Town Pasadena. It has a Michelin star. You call them up and make a reservation, and
Wow.
delicious food,
Well,
I imagine.
that's pretty amazing to know. Yeah, to hear that.
Well, I love having you on. I love following you on Instagram. I get to see all your adventures, you know, and I'm always like, wow, look what he's doing now. And, you know, I share with my kids, like, I think there was like this fuzzy caterpillar, deadly caterpillar in Brazil. And maybe there was one of you feeding a wild fox, and, you know, like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Did you see the giant frog I captured? Toad
Yeah.
in Brazil I captured?
It was in like a garage or something,
yeah,
right?
Huge.
like this.
Yeah, like a
Wow.
cheeseburger with legs. It was giant.
So, you know, hopefully we can have you on again, and you'll share some new adventures with us. But it's always fun to have you on the show, Glenn.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for spending this time with us. I hope this is a treat for you, as sort of a little bit of a departure from our usual format. But we really enjoy the stories that you have, Glenn, and we hope you do too. And you can always reach out to us on sgvmasterkey.com.
Oh, and before I forget, I ran into our most loyal listener, Thomas, on Mount Wilson Trail about 3 weeks ago. And Thomas listens to every show. We used to call him out.
Yeah.
Haven't talked about him for a while, but thank you, Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was nice seeing you about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, you'll probably recognize Thomas if you saw him as
yeah?
a member of a Matador. But anyway, thanks again, Glenn, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was
Yeah.
great.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the SGV Master Key. You can find the full back catalog of the SGV Master Key at sgvmasterkey.com and wherever you get your podcasts. This show was produced and edited by Russell Mono and Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. Thanks again for listening or watching. We'll see you again real soon in the next episode.
Nice mother. No, kind mother.